Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I am your host, Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where I teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Thank you all so much for being here. And also thank you to all of you who have subscribed, rated and reviewed and shared the podcast. We really appreciate your help. So today I want to tell you a quick story. We're going back in time since before we ever knew what COVID was, before we had ever heard of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Most people hadn't heard of a coronavirus. And I want to take you back in time to the days whenever I was spending a lot of time in airports. So I happened to do a couple of conferences in December. I had been on the road for 8 or 10 days. I was pretty tired and I wanted to get home because at the end of that trip, it meant that I did not have any more travel for a couple of months. I usually get the last several weeks of the year without any travel. And so that day, I rolled up to the gate at the airport, and I am just ready to go home. I'm tired. I haven't slept. I haven't seen my wife in a few days. Haven't seen my kids. Haven't seen my grandkids. I'm ready to go home. And the gate attendant grabs the microphone and begins to sing. And what he was singing was every last chorus of "It's the most wonderful time of the year." I don't even know all the words to that song. But he did this entire routine, and I'm just gonna answer the question before you even ask. No, this was not Southwest Airlines. And everybody who was on the flight that day said the same thing. I didn't realize I had gotten on a Southwest flight. And so I remember hearing that it's the most wonderful time of the year. And I'm so glad that he was so excited and joyful in that moment. But in that moment, all I wanted to do was to get home and get some rest. It didn't necessarily feel like the most wonderful time in that moment. And I think that as we head into the holiday times, at the time of this recording, we've just gotten done with Thanksgiving. We're heading into Hanukkah has started, and we are heading into the Christmas season. It's a great time of year. Love it. I'm not Scrooge. I'm not a Christmas hater, am I? No. In general, I love the holidays. I love being with my family. But I do have to recognize that every year is a little bit different. And in my, 46 years on this planet, every Christmas has been a little different. Maybe it's the whole idea of the only thing that remains the same is change. Maybe it's the idea of the only constant is change. But every year is a little bit different. And I think that not only recognizing that from the standpoint of me and my celebrations, every year cannot be the same. It will be a little bit different. It starts to feel like some of our traditions may be getting the axe, right? That we're trading out some of our traditions for just a time that doesn't need to be as traditional, I guess. That's a clunky way of saying it, but I believe you understand what I'm saying. Is it the most wonderful time of year for everyone? And the simple answer is no, of course not. I'm going to go back in time here, back to high school. You know, whenever you think about high school, one of the things that always comes up, one of the pretty common experiences of most of us who have gone to high school, is the experience of senior prom or junior prom, right? And prom, it's when you go out and you buy dresses and you rent tuxes and you get your hair done and your nails done and you've got new shoes and there's all these huge events around prom and taking pictures and the dance itself and the after parties and the project proms, all those kind of things. It's such a big event. And I have to say, oftentimes it was disappointing in high school because I built it up to be so much bigger, and the reality could not compete with the vision that I had in my mind. And I feel like in the holidays, sometimes we have that same experience with people, right? We feel like it's the holidays. We should all be joyful. We should all be cheery. We should all be singing carols, walking up and down the streets, constantly happy. And that's just not reality. It's just not reality. There are tough times for people. And I think whenever we feel like we should be another way, we should be joyful, we should be happy, we should be content, we should feel security. When we don't have those things, it makes us feel even worse. This is a tough time of year for a lot of people. I'm specifically thinking of my best friend at the holidays this year, who lost his father in February. And he lost his mother just about 15 months before that. I know the first year that that my wife's father and stepmother were no longer with us. That was a tough year. Loss and change happen. And when we feel like we should be joyful and we're not, it brings about some maybe feelings of what's wrong with me. Why do I feel guilt about not feeling so joyful? What do you think as we head into this time of year that is in some ways super joyful and in some ways one of the hardest times of year for people?
I think we need to be really careful about putting that label on anything. When we start telling people, oh, this is the most wonderful or the best time, is always a dangerous thing to tell anybody. We tend to tell people when they go to college, this is the best time of your life.
And yet we know that college students have very high rates of anxiety and depression compared with the general public.
College is hard.
College is
hard.
hard.
Was it the best time of your life?
In some ways, it was the best time of my life. And in some ways, I wouldn't go back and do that for anything. You know?
How tragic to think that that really difficult time is the best time, and to think, man, the best time of my life is done when I'm 24. Yeah. It's all downhill after 24. That would be terrible. It was not, it was fun, but it was by a long shot not the best time of my life.
I don't miss studying. I don't miss waking up in the middle of the night panicked over having an exam the next day. I don't miss burning the midnight oil.
Or to tell a new mom, this is the best time of your life. It's wonderful. I love newborn babies. I love that time more than words. But it wasn't the best time. There's so many good times ahead of you. And it's hard, or to tell, mothers of toddlers, it's the best time of your life. Just tell people, enjoy the time, treasure the time. Time moves quickly. Stop telling people this is the best time. You don't know what they're dealing with.
You don't know anybody.
We never know what people are going through. And so many times right now, I've got different people who have a loved one in the hospital, or they're facing this Christmas holiday without someone, or maybe financially they're really struggling right now. We have to watch putting labels on people for seasons. The most wonderful time may be a really hard time for people. So if it's a hard time for you, number one, please give grace to yourself. It doesn't have to be the best time of the year. It's okay if it's not. If it is really sucking for you right now, if it's a really crummy season for you right now, that's okay. It's okay. Don't put a pressure on yourself that your whole year is ruined, because this time is miserable. That's okay. Be graceful with yourself. Have mercy and tenderness with yourself about that.
When there's so much pressure about this being the best or the most or the worst, whenever there's all this pressure, I don't think many people react well to pressure. It's not like if somebody's not working fast enough, not producing enough, if we put pressure on them, does it actually help them? Maybe in some cases, but I think oftentimes whenever people feel pressure, they become resistant to that. And I think that's where maybe being told that this is the most wonderful time of the year, that people push back on that a little bit, saying, you don't know me. You don't know what life is like for me right now. 6 months ago, my life was so significantly different. 6 months ago, I was joyful. Now something's going on in my life that is just the bottom of the barrel, and it's not the most wonderful time of year. Don't put that pressure on me that it has to be.
And if your holiday sucked, if you had one that was just rotten and people are making you feel like it was supposed to be wonderful, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not your only one, and there's no measuring stick, and it doesn't mean the day after can't be the best day. It's all right. There's no measuring stick. It's okay.
So at this time of the year, we just really want to ask you to be present to yourself, to your own emotions, to your own feelings. Be present to the feelings and the suffering of others. And as you go into this time, please check in with yourself frequently. Please check in with your own mental health. Please check in with a friend or a loved one if you feel like your mental health is not up to par. This is a dangerous time of year too, and especially coming off of a couple of years of pandemic. It's not necessarily the most celebratory time of year. So let's all just try to remember to take care of one another. Let's try to remember to take care of ourselves and take care of our communities.
And be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and be thoughtful, and enjoy the season to whatever situation you're in. Enjoy your own self, enjoy each other, be thoughtful with one another, reach out and check with each other.
Absolutely. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today on Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. We want to again thank you all for subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing the podcast. And we want to wish you a blessed holiday season full of compassion, full of love for the world and love for yourself. Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode, and we will see you again next time.